The space station Vega 7 floated in the darkness between stars. It was a neutral place where different species could meet without fear. Today, that meeting would decide if humans would live or die. Captain Yuna Kim walked through the metal corridors of the station. Her boots made soft sounds on the floor. She wore her best uniform, the one with all her medals. People always stared at where her left arm used to be. She had lost it 3 years ago in a battle that saved thousands of lives. The meeting room was huge. 12 different alien species sat around a circular table. Their shapes were strange and frightening. Some looked like walking crystals. Others were clouds of gas that somehow talked. A few had too many arms or eyes in the wrong places. Yuna took her seat in the back row. She was not here to talk. Ambassador Juan Park would do all the talking for humanity. He was an old man with white hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole life trying to make peace with aliens who did not want peace. Commander Tae Shin stood near the wall. He was Yuna's old friend from the war. They had fought together many times. Now he was here to protect the human diplomats. His hand stayed close to his weapon, even though this was supposed to be a safe place. The room buzzed with quiet conversations. The aliens talked in their strange languages. Some made clicking sounds. Others spoke in music that hurt human ears. A few communicated with flashing lights on their bodies. Yuna listened to the translator device in her ear. The aliens were discussing humans like they were animals in a zoo. They called humans primitive and violent. They said humans bred too fast and spread too quickly across the galaxy. The human problem must be solved today, said one alien. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. Yes, agreed another. They are too dangerous to leave alone. Yuna kept her face calm, but inside she felt angry. These aliens had started the war, not humans. They attacked human colonies because they were afraid. Afraid that humans were getting too strong, too smart, too independent. The war had been going on for 7 years. At first, humans won many battles. They were creative fighters who never gave up. But the aliens had more ships and more soldiers. Slowly, human colonies fell one by one. Dr. Minji Lee sat in the front row with the other human diplomats. She was a scientist who studied alien life. She believed that peace was always better than war. She thought humans should accept whatever deal the aliens offered. We must survive, she had told Yuna earlier. Even if the terms are bad, we can rebuild later. But Yuna knew there would be no later. She had seen what these aliens did to defeated species. They were never heard from again. The Vorthak Prime speaker stood up. It was 10 feet tall and made of living crystal. Light moved through its body like blood. When it spoke, its voice echoed in the room. Humans of Sol System, it said, you have lost this war. Your fleets are destroyed. Your colonies burn. Today we offer you mercy. Ambassador Park stood slowly. His hands shook slightly. The weight of his entire species rested on his shoulders. We are grateful for this opportunity to discuss peace, he said carefully. The crystal being laughed. The sound was like shattering glass. This is not a discussion. This is surrender. You will listen to our terms. You will accept them. There are no other choices. Yuna watched the faces of the other aliens. Some looked pleased. Others seemed bored, like this was just routine business. None of them showed any pity for humanity. Your species will be relocated, the Prime Speaker continued. You will live on worlds we choose for you. You will give up all weapons. You will give up all military ships. You will never leave these worlds without permission. The room was silent, except for the humming of the station's air systems. Ambassador Park's face went pale. These were not peace terms. These were the rules for a prison. How many worlds? Park asked quietly. 3 small planets in the outer rim, replied the Prime Speaker. They have breathable air and water. You should be grateful. Yuna knew those worlds. They were barely habitable rocks at the edge of known space. There was no way to grow enough food there for all of humanity. Millions would starve. Dr. Lee leaned forward. What about our civilians? Our children? Our elderly? They will adapt or die, said a cloud-like alien. Natural selection will make your species stronger. Commander Tae's jaw tightened. Yuna saw his hand move closer to his weapon. She caught his eye and shook her head slightly. Not yet. The negotiations continued for hours. Each new demand was worse than the last. Humans would have to give DNA samples to alien scientists. Human children would be educated by alien teachers. Human history and culture would be corrected to remove violent influences. You see, explained a reptilian alien, humans are naturally aggressive. This is why you cause problems in the galaxy. We must fix this flaw in your species. Ambassador Park tried to argue for better terms. Could humans keep their own teachers? Could they choose which worlds to live on? Could they maintain some small defense force? The answer was always no. As the day went on, Yuna noticed something strange. The aliens seemed nervous. They kept looking at screens and talking in whispers. A few left the room and did not come back. Lieutenant Boram Choi, a young officer who once served under Yuna, brought her a cup of coffee. As she handed it over, she also passed along a small data pad. Yuna palmed it smoothly, a skill learned in many covert operations. The data pad contained a single message. Intelligence package incoming. Major O sends his regards. Major Kyung O was one of the best intelligence officers in the human fleet. If he was sending information during these negotiations, it had to be important. The day was ending. The aliens demanded an answer by tomorrow morning. Ambassador Park looked defeated. The terms were horrible, but refusing them might mean the complete destruction of humanity. We need time to consider, Park said. You have until dawn, replied the Prime Speaker. Choose surrender or extinction. As the aliens filed out of the room, Yuna remained seated. She thought about all the humans who had died in this war. She thought about the colonies that had been bombed from orbit. She thought about the children who would never see Earth again. Tomorrow, Ambassador Park would sign away humanity's freedom. Unless something changed, the human species would become slaves or die trying to resist. Yuna touched the data pad in her pocket. Maybe Major O had found something that could change everything. Maybe there was still hope. She stood up and walked toward the door. Commander Tay fell into step beside her. What do you think? He asked quietly. I think we're not dead yet, Yuna replied. Outside the meeting room, the space station continued its slow rotation. Earth was somewhere out there in the darkness, waiting to hear if its children would come home free or in chains. Yuna would not let them be chained. Not while she still drew breath. Yuna sat alone in her small room on the station. The data pad glowed softly in the dim light. Major O's intelligence package was more detailed than she expected. Her cybernetic eye, a replacement from an old injury, scanned through the files quickly. The information painted a clear picture. This war had never been about human aggression or expansion. It was about fear. The galactic powers were terrified of what humanity might become. She remembered the Battle of New Busan clearly. 3 years ago, she had been a young captain in charge of a small defense fleet. The Vorthak Empire sent 200 ships to crush the human colony. Yuna had only 23 ships and a space station that was falling apart. The battle should have lasted hours. Instead, it went on for 6 months. Humans did things that no other species would try. When their ships ran out of ammunition, they rammed enemy vessels. When their hulls were breached, they kept fighting in spacesuits. When their commanders died, common soldiers took charge and kept the battle going. Yuna had used tactics that the aliens called impossible. She hid ships inside asteroid fields. She used civilian transports as decoy warships. She even crashed a cargo ship into an enemy flagship, killing their admiral. The aliens won in the end, but they paid a terrible price. For every human ship destroyed, they lost 3 of their own. The colony was evacuated before it fell. Every civilian escaped alive. That battle made Yuna famous among humans. They called her the Iron Lotus because she was beautiful but deadly. More importantly, it made the aliens afraid. They realized that humans did not fight like other species. Most species surrendered when they were clearly beaten. It was logical. Why throw away lives in a hopeless fight? But humans kept fighting even when they had no chance to win. They fought for their friends, their families, their idea of what was right. This scared the aliens more than any weapon. Yuna closed the data pad and walked to the small window. Stars filled the darkness outside. Somewhere among them was Earth, the world where humanity began. She wondered if she would ever see it again. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. She opened the door to find Dr. Lee standing in the hallway. The scientist looked tired and worried. "May I come in?" Lee asked. Yuna stepped aside. Lee entered and sat on the only chair in the room. For a moment, neither woman spoke. "You think I'm a coward," Lee said finally. "I think you're trying to save our species," Yuna replied. "That's not cowardice. But you disagree with accepting their terms." Yuna sat on her bed, facing the older woman. "I've read their history, Doctor. I know what happens to species that surrender to them. They don't relocate enemies, they eliminate them." Lee's face went pale. "You can't know that for certain. I know that 7 species have joined the galactic community in the last 100 years. None of them exist anymore. Their worlds are empty. Their people are gone. The aliens call it voluntary relocation, but it's really genocide." The scientist was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "Even if you're right, what choice do we have? Our fleets are destroyed. Our colonies are defenseless. We can't win this war." "Maybe not," Yuna admitted, "but we can choose how we lose." Lee left without another word. Yuna knew the woman would think about their conversation all night. Good people always struggled with hard truths. The next morning, the negotiations resumed. The aliens looked confident and relaxed. They had probably spent the evening celebrating their victory. Ambassador Park looked like he had not slept at all. The Vorthak Prime speaker stood before the human delegation. "Have you reached a decision?" Park cleared his throat. "We have concerns about some of the terms." "There are no negotiations," the crystal being replied sharply. "Accept or die." Commander Tay stepped forward slightly. Yuna saw his muscles tense. The man had fought beside her in a dozen battles. He was ready to fight again, even here, even against impossible odds. "Perhaps we could discuss the relocation worlds," Park said carefully. "The planets you mentioned have limited resources. Our population might struggle to survive there." A gas cloud, alien rippled with what might have been laughter. "Survival is not guaranteed, only opportunity. Your species has shown it can adapt to harsh conditions." "You mean like when you bombed our agricultural worlds?" asked Lieutenant Choi. She immediately looked embarrassed for speaking out of turn. The aliens reacted with anger. Several stood up, making threatening sounds in their native languages. The Prime Speaker's light pulsed brightly. "Your species is violent and disrespectful," it said. "This confirms our assessment. You cannot be trusted with freedom." Park raised his hands peacefully. "Please forgive Lieutenant Choi. The stress of these negotiations affects us all." "Stress?" asked a reptilian alien with 4 arms. "You should feel grateful. We offer you life when you deserve death." Yuna watched the exchange carefully. The aliens were becoming more aggressive, showing their true nature. They had never intended to negotiate fairly. This was always about domination and control. More files appeared on her datapad throughout the day. Major O was still working, even now. The intelligence painted an even clearer picture of alien intentions. The relocation worlds were death traps. The atmosphere was barely breathable. The soil was poisoned with heavy metals. Radiation levels were higher than safe limits. Humans might survive there for a few years, but their children would be sick and weak. Even worse, the aliens planned to sterilize half the human population. They would claim it was necessary to control aggressive breeding. Within a generation, humanity would be extinct. As the day wore on, Ambassador Park tried desperately to negotiate better terms. Could humans bring their own food supplies to the relocation worlds? Could they choose their own leaders? Could they maintain communication with other species? Every request was denied. Dr. Lee spoke up several times, trying to find some middle ground. She suggested that humans could be useful to the galactic community. Human scientists had made breakthroughs in medicine and technology. Human engineers could help build better ships and stations. The aliens were not interested. They saw humans as a threat to be eliminated, not a resource to be used. By evening, it was clear that no real negotiation was possible. The aliens had made their decision before the meeting began. They would accept only complete surrender followed by slow extinction. Ambassador Park looked broken. The weight of the impossible choice was crushing him. Sign the agreement and watch humanity die slowly. Refuse and watch it die quickly. Yuna felt the eyes of her companions on her. Commander Tay, Lieutenant Choi, even Dr. Lee looked to her for guidance. They all knew her reputation. They all knew what she had done at New Busan. But this was different. She was not commanding a fleet now. She was just one woman with one arm, sitting in a room full of enemies. The data pad buzzed softly. Another message from Major O. The package is ready for delivery. Authorization required. Yuna stared at the message for a long time. Whatever O had planned, it would require her approval. The responsibility was hers again, just like at New Busan. She thought about all the humans who would never be born if the aliens had their way. She thought about Earth's blue skies and green forests, things her species might never see again. Tomorrow, Ambassador Park would sign the surrender documents, unless someone stopped him. Yuna typed a single word in reply. To Major O, authorized. The real negotiations were about to begin. The third day of negotiations began with new horror. The aliens presented additional terms that made their previous demands look merciful. Yuna sat in her usual place, listening to words that made her blood run cold. Human children will be separated from their parents at age 5, announced the Melody Collective representative. Its voice came through the translator as a musical tone that somehow conveyed cruelty. They will be raised in proper educational facilities where violent human instincts can be corrected. Ambassador Park's face went white. You're talking about taking our children. We are talking about saving your children, replied the gas cloud being. Human parents teach aggression and independence. These traits must be eliminated for galactic peace. Dr. Lee gasped audibly. Even she, the strongest advocate for peace, could not accept this. Children need their families. Separation at such a young age would cause severe psychological damage. The reptilian alien with 4 arms made a dismissive gesture. Psychological damage is temporary. Violent conditioning is permanent. We have studied your species extensively. Human attachment. Behaviors are the source of your aggression. Commander Tay took a step forward before catching himself. Yuna saw his fists clench. The man had 2 young daughters back on Earth. The thought of aliens taking them away was almost enough to make him draw his weapon. Lieutenant Choi was not so controlled. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You can't do this. You can't steal children from their parents. Sit down, Lieutenant, Ambassador Park said quietly, but his voice shook with emotion. The Vorthak Prime speaker pulsed with bright light. This emotional outburst proves our point. Humans cannot control their feelings. This makes them dangerous to civilized society. Yuna watched the exchange with growing anger, but she kept her expression neutral. Her cybernetic eye recorded everything for later analysis. The aliens were revealing more of their true nature with each passing hour. More terms followed. Humans would be required to take drugs that reduced their emotional responses. Human culture, music, art, and literature would be banned as promoting violence. Even human languages would be forbidden in favor of approved galactic tongues. You're not offering us life, Park said finally. You're offering us a slow death while wearing chains. Death is what you deserve, replied the Prime Speaker. We offer you transformation into something better, something useful. The word useful hung in the air like poison. Yuna understood now what the aliens really wanted. They did not want to destroy humanity. They wanted to turn humans into a slave species, broken and obedient. During the lunch break, Major O's intelligence package updated with devastating information. Yuna read it quickly, her heart pounding with each new revelation. The aliens had been planning this for decades. They had studied human psychology and biology in detail. They knew exactly how to break the human spirit without killing the human body. The separation of children was not random cruelty. Studies showed that humans who grew up without family bonds were easier to control. They became compliant workers who never questioned authority. The emotional suppression drugs were real. The aliens had tested them on prisoners from other conquered species. The drugs did not just reduce aggression. They eliminated creativity, curiosity, and the will to resist. Even worse, the aliens had no intention of honoring their promises. Once humanity was properly subdued, they planned to use humans as soldiers against other independent species. Human tactical skills and determination would be turned against other free peoples. Yuna closed the datapad and rubbed her temples. The scope of the alien plan was breathtaking in its evil. They had thought of everything. When negotiations resumed, the aliens presented their final demand. Humanity had to provide genetic samples from their entire population. The aliens claimed this was for medical monitoring, but Yuna knew better. The intelligence package had included references to alien, genetic experiments. They were trying to create hybrid soldiers who combined human tactical thinking with alien technology. The genetic samples would allow them to breed new generations of human slaves designed from birth to be obedient. "This is unacceptable," Park said, showing more backbone than he had in days. "We cannot agree to genetic experimentation on our people." "You misunderstand," replied the Melody representative. "This is not a request. This is a requirement. Compliance is not optional." Dr. Lee tried one last time to find a compromise. "Perhaps we could provide limited samples from volunteers. Our scientists could work with yours to ensure the procedures are safe." The aliens laughed in their various ways. Crystals chimed, gases swirled, and reptiles hissed with amusement. "You still think this is a negotiation?" said the four-armed alien. "How amusing. You have no power here. You have no choices. You will obey, or you will die." Yuna felt something break inside her chest. Not her spirit, but her last hope that these creatures could be reasoned with. They were not interested in peace. They were interested in conquest and domination. She thought about her lost arm, sacrifice for people who were now going to be enslaved anyway. She thought about all the soldiers who had died believing they were fighting for humanity's freedom. The datapad buzzed again. Another message from Major O. "Final preparations complete. Awaiting your signal." Yuna looked around the room at her fellow humans. Ambassador Park still tried to find some diplomatic solution, even though it was hopeless. Dr. Lee had finally accepted that peace was impossible with these aliens. Commander Tay watched the exits, planning escape routes that did not exist. Lieutenant Choi stared at the aliens with barely controlled hatred. They were good people facing an evil they could not compromise with. The aliens had made their choice. Now, humanity had to make theirs. The negotiations continued into the evening. Each new detail made the alien plan more horrible. Humans would be branded with identification marks. They would be forbidden to gather, in groups larger than 5. They would be sterilized if they showed any signs of rebellious thinking. "When do you require our final answer?" Park asked, his voice hollow with defeat. "Tomorrow morning," replied the Prime Speaker. "We have been patient enough. Choose quickly, or we will choose for you." The meaning was clear. Accept slavery or face immediate extermination. As the aliens filed out of the room, they talked among themselves with satisfaction. They believed they had broken human resistance. They thought tomorrow would bring humanity's surrender. Yuna remained in her seat after everyone else left. She stared at the empty chairs where the alien representatives had sat. Tomorrow, those chairs would be filled with creatures celebrating humanity's doom, unless she did something about it. She activated the datapad one final time and sent a message to Major O. "Execute immediately. Authorization Yuna Kim, Captain. Human Defense Force. The Iron Lotus blooms at midnight." The reply came instantly. "Understood. See you on the other side, Captain." Yuna stood up slowly and walked to the window. Stars filled the darkness outside, the same stars that shone on Earth and all the human colonies. Tomorrow, those stars would witness either humanity's surrender or its defiance. She had made her choice. Now she had to live with the consequences. The final day arrived like a funeral. Ambassador Park entered the negotiation chamber looking like a man walking to his execution. The signing ceremony had been prepared with alien efficiency. Documents waited on the table in multiple languages, each page detailing humanity's surrender. Yuna took her usual seat in the back. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, her metals polished to a bright shine. She looked like a soldier preparing for inspection, not a captain about to change the course of galactic history. The alien representatives entered with obvious satisfaction. They had won, and they knew it. The Vorthak Prime speaker carried itself with the confidence of a predator that had cornered its prey. "Today marks a new beginning for the galaxy," it announced. "The human problem will finally be solved through proper integration into civilized society." Ambassador Park stood at the signing table. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for the documents. Dr. Lee sat nearby, her face pale but resigned. She had accepted that this was humanity's only chance for survival, even if it meant the death of everything that made them human. Commander Tay and Lieutenant Choi flanked the human delegation. Both officers stood at attention, but Yuna could see the tension in their postures. They were soldiers forced to watch their species surrender without a fight. "Before we proceed," Park said slowly, "I want to confirm that these terms are final. There will be no further negotiations or modifications." "Correct," replied the Melody representative. "What you sign today becomes galactic law. There will be no appeals, no exceptions, and no mercy for violations." The reptilian alien added, "Your species will have exactly 1 month to begin compliance. Failure to meet any deadline will result in immediate termination of this agreement." Yuna knew what termination of the agreement meant. The aliens would simply kill every human in the galaxy. They had backup plans for everything. Park lifted the signing stylus. The device would imprint his genetic signature on the documents, making them legally binding under galactic law. Once he pressed it to the page, humanity's fate would be sealed. "Ambassador," Yuna said quietly. Every head in the room turned toward her. She had spoken so rarely during the negotiations that her voice came as a surprise. "Yes, Captain," Park replied. Yuna stood up slowly. The movement was deliberate and controlled, but something about it made every alien in the room tense. They had studied human body language extensively. This was not the posture of a defeated enemy. "Before you sign those documents," she said, "there's something you need to know." The Vorthak Prime speaker's light pulsed with irritation. "The human soldier has no authority here. These negotiations are complete." "Actually," Yuna replied, "they're just beginning." She reached into her uniform pocket and withdrew the data pad. Major O's intelligence package contained more than just information about alien plans. It contained proof of alien war crimes, evidence of genocide against other species, and documentation of their true intentions for humanity. "This contains intercepted communications from your various governments," she announced to the room. "Would you like me to share the highlights?" The aliens reacted with alarm. Several stood up quickly, their various appendages making threatening gestures. The Prime Speaker's crystal body flared with bright light. "Human deception," it declared. "We will not be delayed by lies and fabrications." "Oh, these aren't lies," Yuna said calmly. She activated the datapad's projector, filling the room with holographic documents. "These are your own words, in your own languages, discussing your real plans for my species." The first document appeared in floating text above the table. It was a Vorthak military memo discussing final solution protocols for the human infestation. The language was clinical and precise, detailing plans for systematic extermination. Dr. Lee gasped as she read. Ambassador Park's face went from pale to furious. Commander Tay and Lieutenant Choi moved closer to their weapons. "The relocation worlds you promised us," Yuna continued. "They're death traps, poisoned air, toxic soil, lethal radiation. You expected us to die there within 5 years. More documents appeared. Medical reports showing the effects of the emotional suppression drugs, genetic experiment proposals using human children as test subjects, plans to breed human slaves with modified DNA. The Melody representative tried to interrupt. "These documents are classified military intelligence. Possession of them is an act of war." "An act of war?" Yuna laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "You've been at war with us for 7 years. You've bombed our colonies, enslaved our people, and now you want to steal our children. What exactly did you think this was?" The reptilian alien with 4 arms reached for a communication device. Yuna's cybernetic eye tracked the movement instantly. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," she said quietly. "You threaten us?" The Prime Speaker demanded. One crippled human soldier against the combined fleets of 12 species? Yuna smiled, and every alien in the room felt a chill of fear. They had studied human facial expressions extensively. That smile meant danger. No, she replied. I'm not threatening you. I'm informing you that your fleets are currently surrounded. The aliens froze. Several reached for their own datapads, trying to contact their ships. Their faces showed growing alarm as they received no responses. Lieutenant Choi stepped forward and handed Yuna another device. This one projected a tactical display of the space around Vega 7 station. Dozens of red dots surrounded the facility, marking the positions of alien vessels. Then the blue dots appeared. Human ships, many more than should have existed, closing in on the alien fleet from all directions. Impossible, whispered the Prime Speaker. Your fleets were destroyed. We monitored their elimination personally. You monitored the destruction of our outer fleet elements, Yuna corrected. The ships you were supposed to see. The ones we wanted you to see. The tactical display updated, showing the current battle. Human ships were not attacking yet, but they had achieved complete tactical superiority. The alien fleet was trapped. Ambassador, Park stared at the display in shock. Captain Kim, what is this? This, Ambassador, is what happens when you corner humanity, Yuna replied. We don't surrender. We adapt. We plan. We survive. She activated another file from the datapad. This one showed human shipyards hidden in asteroid fields and rogue planets. For 3 years, while the aliens thought they were winning, humanity had been rebuilding in secret. You made one critical mistake, Yuna told the alien representatives. You assumed that because we value life, we wouldn't risk it. You thought our compassion made us weak. The room was silent except for the humming of life support systems. The aliens were learning what humans meant when they talked about protecting their families. Here's what's really going to happen, Yuna continued. You're going to withdraw from all human space immediately. You're going to pay reparations for the colonies you destroyed, and you're going to establish a new galactic order based on equality, not domination. The Prime Speaker's light pulsed with rage. We will never accept terms from inferior species. Then you'll die, Yuna said simply. Every ship, every station, every colony. We've learned your locations, your weaknesses, your fears. We can end your civilizations before lunch. The threat hung in the air like a sword. The aliens looked at each other with growing panic. They had built their power on intimidating weaker species. Now they faced someone who could not be intimidated. Ambassador. Park finally found his voice. Captain, surely we can find a diplomatic solution? Yuna turned to look at him. Her expression was gentle, but firm. Ambassador, diplomacy requires good faith from both sides. These creatures never intended to honor any agreement. They planned genocide from the beginning. She gestured to the alien representatives. The only choice now is whether they accept our terms or face the consequences of their actions. The negotiations had indeed ended when she stood up, but they were just beginning again, with humanity holding all the cards. The silence in the room stretched like a wire about to snap. Alien representatives stared at the tactical display showing their trapped fleets. The blue dots marking human ships seemed to pulse with menace. The Vorthak Prime Speaker was the first to recover from the shock. Its crystal body flared with defiant light. You are bluffing. Humans lack the military strength for such an operation. Yuna activated another file on her datapad. The holographic display changed to show Admiral Dongwu Nam standing on the bridge of a massive warship. His image filled the center of the room. Admiral Nam, Yuna said formally, please report the current tactical situation. The Admiral's weathered face was grim but determined. Behind him, the bridge of his ship bustled with activity. Captain Kim, we have achieved complete encirclement of the alien fleet. All enemy vessels are locked onto our targeting systems. He paused to check a display. Current count, 237 alien ships of various classes. They are outnumbered 3-1 and caught in a crossfire formation. Our ships are cloaked and holding position at optimal firing range. The alien representatives began talking frantically among themselves. The reptilian delegate tried to access its communication system again, but received only static. How is this possible? Demanded the Melody representative. Our intelligence showed human military capabilities were exhausted. Admiral Nam smiled coldly. Your intelligence was fed carefully crafted misinformation for 3 years. While you thought you were winning, we were rebuilding our entire fleet in hidden shipyards. The hologram shifted to show Captain Sujin Kang, a brilliant tactical specialist, who had worked with Yuna at New Busan. She stood in what appeared to be a command center filled with dozens of screens. Captain Kang, Yuna said, please explain our strategic advantages. Kang's voice was crisp and professional. We have been monitoring all alien communications for the past 18 months. We know the location of every major military installation, every supply depot, and every command center in your territories. She gestured to the screens behind her. We have detailed intelligence on your defensive capabilities, your fleet deployments, and your command structures. More importantly, we know about your plans for other species. New holographic documents appeared in the room. These showed alien plots against dozens of independent worlds. Plans for conquest, enslavement, and genocide that made their treatment of humanity look merciful by comparison. Dr. Lee stood up shakily. My God! You were planning to do this to everyone, the four-armed reptilian alien hissed in frustration. Galactic order requires strong leadership. Primitive species cannot govern themselves effectively. Leadership? Commander Tay stepped forward, his voice filled with disgust. You call genocide leadership? Yuna raised her hand for silence. She was not finished revealing the scope of human preparation. Captain Kang, please describe our current operational capabilities. The tactical specialist activated new displays. We have 47 hidden fleet bases scattered across this sector. Each one is fully supplied and capable of independent operations for up to 2 years. She paused to highlight specific locations. We have also established contact with 17 species that have been threatened by the current galactic order. Many are ready to join a resistance movement. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just rebuilt their own military strength. They had created the foundation for a galaxy-wide rebellion against alien tyranny. Ambassador Park looked stunned. Captain Kim, how long has this been planned? Since the day after New Busan fell, Yuna replied. We realized then that this war was never about territory or resources. It was about freedom versus slavery. She turned to address the alien representatives directly. Every species in this galaxy deserves the right to determine its own destiny. You have denied that right for too long. The Prime Speaker's light pulsed with desperate anger. You cannot threaten the established order of the galaxy. We have maintained peace for centuries. Peace? Lieutenant Choi laughed bitterly. You call the extinction of 7 species peace? Captain Kang's voice came through the hologram again. If I may, Captain Kim, we have intercepted communications from several alien worlds. Many of their own people are tired of constant warfare and oppression. New intelligence files appeared, showing internal dissent within the alien empires. Some Vorthak crystals questioned the endless expansion. Some melody clouds wanted to explore art and philosophy instead of conquest. Even some reptilian worlds had peace movements. Your own people are ready for change, Yuna told the alien representatives. They're tired of living in fear, tired of sending their children to die in wars of aggression. The room erupted as aliens began arguing among themselves. Some demanded immediate military action against the human fleet. Others urged caution. A few seemed genuinely shocked by the evidence of their government's crimes. Admiral Nam's voice cut through the chaos. All alien vessels, this is Admiral Nam of the Human Defense Force. You are completely surrounded and outnumbered. Power down your weapons and prepare to receive boarding parties. The alien representatives fell silent. Outside the station, their mighty fleet was helpless. Inside the room, their carefully planned domination of humanity was crumbling. You have a choice, Yuna announced. Accept our terms for a new galactic order based on mutual respect and cooperation, or face the consequences of your actions. The Melody representative rippled with what might have been fear. What are your terms? Yuna activated a prepared document on her datapad. First, immediate withdrawal of all alien military forces from human space. Second, reparations for the colonies you destroyed and the civilians you killed. She paused to let that sink in. Third, The establishment of a new galactic council where every species has an equal voice, regardless of military strength or technological advancement. The Prime Speaker's light dimmed. Impossible. The strong must lead the weak. That is the natural order. The natural order, Yuna replied, is cooperation and mutual aid. Your way has led to nothing but war and suffering. Admiral Nam's image reappeared. Captain, we're receiving surrender requests from several alien vessels. It appears some of their crews are refusing orders to fight. The revelation sent shockwaves through the alien representatives. Their own military forces were abandoning them when faced with human determination. Captain Kang added her own report. We're also receiving communications from civilian populations on dozens of alien worlds. Many are requesting protection from their own governments. The scope of the collapse was becoming clear. The alien empire was built on fear and oppression. When faced with real opposition, it was falling apart from within. This is your last chance, Yuna told the alien representatives. Choose cooperation or choose destruction. But choose quickly. My people have waited long enough for justice. The aliens looked at each other with growing desperation. Their perfect plan to eliminate humanity had become their own potential doom. The hunters had become the hunted. Ambassador Park finally understood what was happening. You're not just saving humanity, Captain, you're liberating the entire galaxy. Yuna nodded grimly. Someone has to stand up to bullies. It might as well be us. The fate of countless worlds now hung in the balance, waiting for the aliens to make their choice. The moment of decision had arrived. The alien representatives huddled together, their various forms creating a strange council of defeated enemies. Outside the station, their fleets waited helplessly in the crosshairs of human weapons. The Vorthak, Prime Speaker, was the first to break away from the group. Its crystal body had dimmed to a pale glow, the bright confidence of earlier days completely extinguished. What guarantee do we have that humans will honor any agreement? It asked. Your species has shown itself capable of great deception. Yuna almost smiled at the irony. You're asking us for guarantees, after planning genocide? Ambassador Park stepped forward, resuming his diplomatic role. Captain Kim, perhaps we should outline the specific terms more clearly. Yuna nodded and activated her datapad. A new holographic document appeared, written in multiple languages for all species to understand. The terms are simple, she announced. Complete withdrawal from human space within 30 days. Payment of reparations equal to the reconstruction costs of destroyed colonies. Recognition of human sovereignty over all current territories. She paused to ensure every alien understood. In return, humanity offers a new galactic compact based on equality and mutual respect. No species rules over others. All disputes are resolved through negotiation, not force. The Melody representative swirled nervously. What of our existing territories? Our established colonies? You keep what is legitimately yours, Yuna replied. But the forced relocation of other species ends immediately. All enslaved populations are freed. This caused an uproar among the alien delegates. The reptilian with 4 arms stood up angrily. Impossible! Our economy depends on those labor forces. Captain Kang's voice came through the hologram. Then, your economy will have to adapt. Slavery is ending, whether you agree or not. Admiral Nam's image reappeared. Captain Kim, we're receiving more surrender requests from alien vessels. Current count is 73 ships requesting permission to defect. The news hit the alien representatives like a physical blow. Their own military forces were abandoning them in increasing numbers. The appeal of human ideals was spreading through their fleets. Dr. Lee found her voice again. This could work. A galaxy based on cooperation instead of domination. Think of what we could accomplish together. The Prime. Speaker's light flashed with desperate anger. You ask us to abandon millions of years of natural evolution. The strong have always ruled the weak. Evolution doesn't stop, Yuna replied calmly. It continues. And right now, it's selecting for cooperation over aggression. Lieutenant Choi stepped forward with a new datapad. Captain, we're receiving communications from resistance movements on alien worlds. They're requesting human support for liberation. The scope of the revolution was becoming clear. This was not just about humanity's freedom. It was about the freedom of every oppressed species in the galaxy. Commander Tay spoke for the first time in hours. Your choice is simple. Lead this change, or be swept away by it. The alien representatives fell silent again. The weight of their decision pressed down on them like the gravity of a massive planet. Accept humanity's terms and transform their entire civilization, or fight, and likely lose everything. A new voice entered the conversation. One of the younger Vorthak delegates, whose crystal body pulsed with different patterns than the prime speaker. I wish to speak, it announced. The prime speaker turned toward the younger alien with obvious displeasure. You have no authority. Here, second Crystal Moran. I have the authority of truth, Moran replied. Our people are tired of endless war. Our young crystals ask why we cannot explore art and science instead of conquest. The admission created another stir among the alien delegation. Internal dissent was becoming public. Moran continued. The humans offer us something we have never had. A chance to grow beyond our fear. Captain Kang's voice provided more encouraging news. Captain Kim. We're now in contact with peace movements on 47 alien worlds. They're requesting immediate implementation of the new Galactic Compact. The revolution was spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. Oppressed populations throughout the galaxy were seeing their chance for freedom. Yuna made her final offer. You can be part of building something better, or you can cling to a system that's already collapsing. But you cannot stop change from coming. She gestured to the tactical display, still showing the surrounded alien fleet. Your military superiority is broken. Your economic model is obsolete. Your political control is crumbling. Ambassador Park added his diplomatic weight to the moment. Gentlemen and ladies, we stand at a crossroads of galactic history. Choose wisely. The prime speaker looked around the room at its fellow delegates. Some showed fear, others anger, but a few displayed something new, hope. After a long moment, it spoke. If we accept these terms, what becomes of our current leadership? That's for your people to decide, Yuna replied. Humanity doesn't seek revenge, only justice. Leaders who committed war crimes will face trial. Those who embrace change will help build the future, the Melody representative asked. And if some species refuse to accept this new order? Admiral Nam's voice was firm. Then they will face the combined forces of every free species in the galaxy. The age of galactic tyranny is ending. Second Crystal Moran stepped forward. The Vorthak delegation votes to accept human terms. The prime speaker's light flared with outrage. You exceed your authority. No, Moran replied. I exercise the will of our people. They have chosen freedom over fear. One by one, other delegates began to speak. A younger Melody Cloud announced its acceptance. Several reptilian representatives broke ranks with their leadership. The old order was crumbling in real time. As the day ended, most of the alien delegation had accepted the human terms. A few hardliners continued to resist, but they were isolated and powerless. Captain Kang reported that over 200 alien ships had surrendered and requested permission to join the new Galactic Alliance. Resistance movements on dozens of worlds were declaring independence from their oppressive governments. Yuna stood at the window again, looking out at the stars. But this time, she was not alone. Ambassador Park, Dr. Lee, Commander Tay, and Lieutenant Choi stood with her. What happens now? Park asked. Now we build something better, Yuna replied. It won't be easy. There will be setbacks and challenges. But for the first time in galactic history, every species will have a chance to determine its own destiny. Dr. Lee smiled for the first time in days. A galaxy based on cooperation instead of conquest. It's everything we dreamed of. Commander Tay nodded approvingly. The Iron Lotus has bloomed into something beautiful. Lieutenant Choi looked up at the stars with wonder. My children will grow up in a free galaxy. Admiral Nam's final transmission came through the communication system. Captain Kim, the transformation fleet is standing by. We're ready to begin the new age. Yuna took one last look at the negotiation chamber where humanity's fate had been decided. The surrender documents still lay on the table unsigned and meaningless now. The peace negotiations had indeed ended when she stood up. But in their place, something far more valuable had begun. The foundation of a truly free galaxy. The stars outside seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating the dawn of a new era. An era where strength meant protecting others, not dominating them. Where differences were celebrated, not eliminated. Where even the smallest species could stand up and change the course of history. The iron lotus had bloomed, and its seeds would spread to every corner of the galaxy.